911, what is your emergency?
Units respond code 3 to a 1050 on the highway. Vehicles are blocking multiple
We're en route
lanes
to the
of travel.
hospital. Patient is currently having
We've got a
cardiac
4-alarm
arrest and has
fire
been
here.
intubated.
Send
Protesters
additional
are outside
trucks.
of City Hall and they are not complying with our
Out on
orders
1,
to
hold the
disperse.
air.
In a rapidly changing world for first responders where it seems that every day the rules and norms are changing, there is one voice you can count on to give you the latest in emergency news. That is Lifeline. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 podcast with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I'm your co-host, Gary, and today we're going to be talking about the don'ts, or how not to take care of yourself and other people. Last week we discussed things that you could do in order to try and be as successful as possible in terms of surviving the daily tragedies and stresses of the job. We talked about peer support, the employee assistance programs, debriefings, and just other healthy habits that you might want to build. And this week we're going to be talking about things that you might want to avoid if you want to have a good career and maybe not end up in the slammer.
Yeah. Or, I don't know, fired.
Yeah. Or 6 feet under.
Or divorced.
Yeah.
Or, you know, any of the things that can happen the things that can happen and hopefully your behavior or the lack thereof haven't contributed to them, because life happens, but you don't want your bad habits to be the reason.
Yeah, I mean, you can do everything right and still lose sometimes. But
this is true.
Try and avoid doing any of the wrong things.
Yes, agreed.
So what are some of the things that you might want to avoid as in the life of a first responder?
Well, I think that I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Drinking too much can be a bad idea.
Yeah, that's probably one of the main issues that people in this profession have is overindulgence in alcohol.
And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a little choir practice, if you will, the way we used to do it back in the day, the six-pack.
Yeah. Yep.
And a bunch of folks kind of standing around and decompressing after the shift. But, obviously now that's not a great idea, because what we used to do is we would get the six-pack and all hang out and drink 2 or 3 of them each and then get in our cars and go home.
Right.
Which is really not okay, given that we are the ones who are supposed to be enforcing the don't do that. Exactly, yeah. Which is how you end up in the slammer.
Yeah.
And fired.
Because that's pretty much, an immediate termination right there.
At least for us, it is. Yeah. It is. It's a non-negotiable. So, but even more serious, there's health issues that come from that. If you are overindulging as a way of escaping the stress of the job or the demands of the job, that is not healthy. And I don't think anybody listening doesn't know that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it can be, a very tempting sort of way to escape from your inner demons. And it's not a healthy way to do it, and it ends up almost always making it worse.
Absolutely, because the problem is still there after you wake up from your stupor.
Exactly. But it is an easy and quick way of trying to, get outside of yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously it's not just limited to first responders profession.
Nope, not at all.
But it is certainly a issue that a lot of people can have, especially if they don't have a strong support group to help them through, the issues and the tragedies that befall you.
That's true. And this is where, we can double back to last week and talk about the resources that are available to you. That's where, again, peer support, one might not think of it this way, but peer support is a resource for you if you find yourself having to battle an addiction. And whether it be alcohol, hopefully an illegal substance is not going to be your problem, because that's a whole other thing.
No more dancing with Mary Jane, y'all.
Exactly. And now you have to worry about confiding, and now you're talking about breaking the law, so it's a whole other thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're just, sticking to what is I think most common,
Yeah. Yeah.
the thing that you see often is, the whispers of, through the years, I've known of people in the different 2 agencies that I've worked in that have had issues like that. And of course, we hear about officers all the time battling this, and firefighters and EMTs battling alcohol addiction, which is actually an illness. Okay, so I think maybe backing up just a little bit and acknowledging that that is an illness, and hopefully maybe trying to remove some of the stigma that is associated with that particular issue. So your peer support can help you with that. They have resources. And actually, and we were talking about this just off the mic a little while ago, I think as a supervisor, and you can probably agree with this, if someone came to me and said, this is the problem that I have, I would much rather them tell me that that's the problem and let me help get them help.
Right.
Rather than them continue to battle on their own, lose the battle, come to work inebriated or just barely sober or hungover so severely from their last bout, till now they have endangered everything and everyone. From their drive to work, they've endangered people. Now they're at work, and our field responders and the public in general is not safe because they're not 100% here.
Yeah.
I'd much rather help you get the help that you need, so maybe we can save you from this situation and get you on the other side, rather than now I have to do my due diligence as a supervisor, and now we've got a whole other thing.
Yeah, because if you come to your supervisor beforehand and say, hey, I'm dealing with this problem, there are options that can kind of help. But if you've come to work drunk, then as a supervisor, I don't really have any options that I want to use. Basically, you will be fired, and you'll probably be arrested.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that outcome.
No.
But I think that with all of the sort of negative ways to not take care of yourself that we have that we're going to talk about today, they all kind of stem from the same the same root. Like, there's some problem and you're trying to find a way to cope with it.
Yeah.
But you're not finding a way that is conducive to actually coping with it. It's just putting it off, kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to consider with this particular, the alcohol abuse or the illness that is alcohol addiction, now we have your health to consider. Not just getting fired, not just getting arrested, but your health. And then now, that just kind of spider webs into so many other things. Now your family and your career is gone and your health is shot, and just, wow.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's like that little pebble that hits your windshield, and before you know it,
it's crack.
It's crack, and it's not just the crack. Now it's just splintered, and it's affecting so many things. So I think, and I can be very candid here, my family has dealt with this issue as far back as I can remember. And some members of my family were more affected by it than others, but so it's close to home for me. And I've seen people's careers go just sideways as a result, and I've seen their health go sideways. Yeah,
and especially since, like if you're a lawyer and you go to work drunk, or like most other careers, if you go to work drunk, you get fired, you can go get another job at another law firm or wherever, another place in that industry.
Yeah.
If you do that as a first responder, you can never have another job as a first responder.
Never.
Like, that entire career is now
gone.
closed to you forever.
Yeah.
And it's very devastating because one bad decision can cost you everything.
Yeah. Rather than just having that very difficult conversation with someone to get the help. And I'm not suggesting that it's easy. I'm just saying sometimes you need to hear just what you're risking with that.
Yeah, and then reaching out to people that may have a problem, kind of checking with them.
Yeah.
Because as hard as it is to do that and to talk about it with someone, it'll be much harder to, see them, fired or attend their funeral.
Agree. Now, if we're really going to get down to the nitty gritty, there it is. Yeah.
So as hard and as much courage as it takes to do that, I don't think I've ever met anyone that didn't feel that was a worthwhile thing to do, to at least, try.
Yeah.
Because they may be able to get the help or they may not accept it. But if you did everything you could and reached out to them, then at least you can have a clear conscience that you did what you could.
Absolutely. I agree. And then there are resources, of course, like we said, your peer support, and then your leadership. There's also AA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that depends on whatever, what else might be a thing for you. There's always church groups. And that takes us into, we can go back around to ways to take care of yourself. Hobbies. There are ways that you can, process the stress and the trauma of this work. So, your hobbies, for one, I'm just heartbroken right now, as you well know.
Yeah.
I don't have an aquarium right now, and that's the thing for me. I'm having, water baby withdrawals is the best I can come up with, because I love my dogs. I absolutely do, but my hobby is fish keeping. Mm-hmm. And I am fishless right now.
Balancing the pH levels, the temperature,
and
all
it is
that
a
stuff.
thing, because you take an empty container and you turn it into a environment in which other living things can thrive. That's the goal.
It's kind of like a metaphor for training a call taker or dispatcher.
How so, Gary?
You take an empty container that doesn't know how to do the job, and you fill it, and you bring the pH level to the right.
Yes, I love it. That is awesome. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. So hobbies.
Use that in your training.
Exactly. So hobbies, and I know we're probably going to, back and forth a little bit with this one, because there are some things that you shouldn't do, and the don'ts are there, but we don't want this to be just a smack you upside the head with all the bad things you can do, because come on, we've been living long enough to be in this industry. Yeah. Whether you're 18 or
60,
50 or whatever, that this is one subject that is just not a healthy way to go about your life in general.
Yeah, especially if you're in this industry, you see the effects of all bad decisions all the time. So
from alcohol to substance abuse, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, gambling.
You name it. We can probably figure out, okay, that's probably not something we should do.
Yeah.
But another good way is, obviously hobbies. I don't care what it is. Knitting at your station, if that helps you, process. It helps get, your mental energy up. I've seen people make whole blankets in an 8 to 10 and sometimes 12-hour shift, which is nuts to me, because my fingers don't work like that.
Yeah, that would be tedious to me, I would think. But maybe it's enjoyable because of that.
And mine would be quite ugly, so let's just be real about that.
Be all misshapen.
And it would be.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it would not be good.
But I think the point is with hobbies, like you were telling me, one of the people we work with is an avid bingo goer. I don't know what the term for that would be.
A bingoer, I don't know.
A bingonese. And like they are really into it and just come alive when they start playing bingo.
Yes.
And I think that with hobbies, they help keep you from completely becoming the job, because I think a lot of people, one of the issues they have is that the job so becomes who they are that they lose themselves in it.
Agreed.
And you can't do that. I mean, even if you're, which I hope everyone who's in this industry is, really committed to helping people and, making, their society and their cities a better place to be. But you can't have that be who you are entirely.
Yes.
You are a call taker or a dispatcher, a police officer, a firefighter, a medic, but like that's your career. And it could
profession.
Be, even your calling, even your vocation.
Yeah.
But that's not all of who you are.
No.
And a lot of people, I think, let that completely take them over. And that way, You know, it takes the joy of life away.
Yeah, and it takes the joy of the profession away.
Yeah.
Even because now it's no longer you helping; it has consumed you.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, and this is a whole other topic. Write this down at some point.
Writing down.
Well, because now you're no longer able to help anyone else around you. Like, I mean, even the newbies in the industry, you can't come alongside because now you're so consumed by your own importance in the job, or you become arrogant, you become difficult, you become no fun to be around, and that contributes to a toxic work environment.
Yeah.
Which is another thing, the eat your young thing. It is a real thing.
Yeah.
Anybody listening to this, you're free to say amen because it's true. It's
you know
true.
who we're talking about.
You know who we're talking about. And you just absolutely lose the human element when you have the job just take over. There's nothing wrong with a sense of community. There's nothing wrong with have a sense of pride in what we do. And there's there's the prestige that comes along with being a first responder and saving lives, quite literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There are days when you quite literally are the difference between life and death for someone.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
That's amazing. But you can't have it become who you are completely.
Right. Because you just won't, I think, survive very well. And especially because I mean, you hear about it all the time, people that do become completely subsumed by the job when they retire, they have nothing.
They have nothing.
Usually that doesn't work out well in the long run for the
No.
retirement.
To be honest with you, you usually don't hear that they have lived very much longer past retirement.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing nobody wants to say, but it's the truth. You don't want to just retire and die.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when the job consumes you and you lose your identity as a human being in the job.
Although I do like the idea of a retired detective that's grizzled and he's like, I got that one last case to solve. I'm going to take my notes home with me and find it.
Okay.
That's about beside the point.
All right then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So aside from drinking, ways not to take care of yourself, and especially if you're working night shifts, I totally get this, is lack of sleep.
Yes.
That can wear you down.
Your body requires sleep.
And your mind, too.
Absolutely. And that, we were talking about this, too, off mic, about not getting enough sleep, which you can fool yourself. The longer you've been at this, you can fool yourself into thinking that you can do this job well on little sleep. People coming in and working 2 hours, working off of 2 hours of sleep, 3 hours of sleep. But they've got 5+ years under their belt. And so much of what they do every day is second nature. Mm-hmm. Mechanically, you can do these things. But are you doing it to the best of your ability? Are you really keeping your first responders safe? Are you really here?
Yeah. And, as we always say, you can do that on almost no sleep until you can't.
Until you can't. Yeah.
And that's not a position you want to put yourself in or the people on the other end of the phone or the radio.
And they deserve better.
Yeah.
And you, like it or not, we're in positions of trust. We're held to a higher standard. I don't know how many times through the years I've had trainees where I'm like, you must be tired because I can tell. They can't tell that their performance is off because they're tired, but I can.
Yeah, yeah. And just their own, their demeanor, too. You get crabby, you get cranky.
Tone of voice, it's hard to concentrate.
Yeah, you lose your sympathy with people. And those are all things you don't want to do when you work in emergency communications or first responders in general.
Yeah, and the other one, your health.
Yes, yeah. Again, always comes back to that.
It does come back to that. So getting enough sleep, I mean, I know as adults, most of us, we have busy lives, and 8 to 10 hours of sleep every day is just, whatever.
Wonderful.
I mean, it's lovely when you get it, But usually when that happens, it's because you've gone for nearly a week on 4 hours a night of sleep. And so by the time you get to that 8 to 10 hours, it's because you're just utterly exhausted. And, you've been very fortunate because I'm guilty. I've done it through the years. I'm getting older. I can't do it as easily anymore. These young people just make me crazy. They come in here all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And how long have you...
I didn't sleep.
Yeah, you find out that they went partied and did this and did that, and they're 2 hours of sleep.
Yep. I remember I was 27. I was in my 27th year of life when I figured out I can no longer pull an all-nighter. It just won't work for me.
I can't do that. I can't do doubles. I'm like, wait, on purpose?
Yeah.
No.
16 hours is a long time.
That is a long time, but we have some of our wonderful young 20-something colleagues. They just be bopping around and like it's the most fun they've ever had.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
I can't do that anymore. Don't want to. Nope.
No, thank you.
Okay. So,
Go ahead.
overworking.
Yep. I mean, that kind of goes along with that. We have different departments have different limits, but most of them probably have where you can almost work, 80 hours a week. And that takes a huge, huge toll on you.
Yes.
And some people, especially worries me the people that build their lives in a way where they need that overtime in order to make their bills.
Yes.
Because then they have to take that, and they can't.
They can't not.
Yeah, they can't relax.
And then they can't relax because they have to work that much, and then heaven help them when it's not available.
Yep.
Now there's a whole other level of stress because now they have to. And then I know for us, if you're going to do secondary employment, that's a whole other process that you have to go through to get approval for. So, not getting enough sleep is not okay, but building your life in such a way that you require 40 hours of overtime or you're just not going to survive, that's not good either. So, wow.
Yeah. I mean, you want to put yourself not behind the 8 ball if you can.
Agreed.
At all times.
Yeah.
That the overworking and also that just burns you out. And we'll probably have a whole episode on burnout, I think, in the future.
Yeah.
But again, you lose your sharpness when you do that.
It is, and burnout and complacency, I think, it may seem like I'm going off a little bit, but think about this, those of you who are in the industry. Most of us, when we think about complacency, not knowing any better, we think lazy, but actually complacency is something that will drive you to think that you are on top of your game when you're actually not.
Mm-hmm.
It will have you thinking that you can get 3 hours of sleep 5 days in a row because you're that good at the job. That's really complacency is a blind, you're ignorant to your limits.
And to those of you who think you can do that, let me pose this question to you. If you were having brain surgery and you had the best brain surgeon in the world and he was like, yeah, I've been up doing this for 60 hours this week. I got you on Friday. Come on in for your brain surgery. Would you want to go to that doctor?
Agreed.
I wouldn't.
I would not. And we would all shrink back, clutch our pearls, and be like, oh, my God, you're a brain surgeon. How dare you be so careless with my health? Mm-hmm. When that is the very thing that we do with the public and our first responders. Yeah. So that very thing.
One of the responsibilities you take on when you become a first responder is to keep yourself physically and mentally fit and sharp enough for the duty.
Yep.
Yeah. And don't forget, most communications personnel don't have PT tests or anything like that.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. I might not pass that, But, you do have a level of health and mental well-being and sharpness and acuity that you need to maintain in order to help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to live with the consequences if the unthinkable happens and it's traced back to you not having slept enough. And now we have a liability. Mm-hmm. And you can be held accountable to that to the tune of, it could be a monetary thing. It's more than just being fired.
Yeah.
You also have to live with that.
Yeah. And that's we take on enough heavy burdens. We don't need to add to it with one that's easily avoidable.
Agreed. Go to bed.
Yeah, and it's tough sometimes because you want to get everything done, especially like if you're on night shift or something. I've been guilty of it myself, where I'm like,
We all have.
I can do everything that I want to do because I'm working overnight, so I'll just do that. And then in the morning, I've got breakfast plans with so and so, and then in the afternoon, I'm going to go catch a movie, and then I'll sleep for 2 or 3 hours here, and then head back to work.
Yeah.
But it's a dangerous game to play, and you might make that run 19 of 20 times successfully without any issue, but there'll be one time where you don't.
Yeah. And as your dad used to say, famously, it only takes one beep to wipe out 100 attaboys.
Yep. I was wondering if you were going to find a quote from him that didn't have a curse word, but
I mean,
it's it's fine. Try growing up with the guy.
Oh, my God. I would have loved that, I think. Just to be a fly on the wall, it would have been. Gary's a legacy, y'all.
But yeah, so those are things you can do to not take care of yourself very well by avoiding things that keep you healthy and happy. We kind of talked about like the drinking, drugs, gambling. Another thing is kind of isolation.
Yes.
And that kind of goes along with maybe working too much overtime, but like where it's just you don't have any friends or family or any hobbies or activities, and it's like you've just become an island.
You get up, you come to work. Mm-hmm. You go home, you go to bed for however long you can manage it, and then you get up and you just do it over and over and over again, and you have no outlet other than the job.
Yeah, and like you can sink into that really easy.
Very easy.
Yeah, and not even realize how much of a toll that takes on you. And there will be times, of course, where there's some massive emergency that you may have to do that, like when we had the snowpocalypse here in Central Texas a couple of years ago. I mean, that was, to me, I kind of look back on it as being like a fun thing. Like I'm really I'm really proud of how well we all did. Yeah. But like to have to, like, if you set yourself up just a normal operating procedure to be doing that kind of stuff every day,
that's not healthy.
Yeah, it would be really, really hard. No,
that's not good. But yeah, and that's another episode that I think we're probably going to dive into in about, another couple of weeks, because the quote-unquote, what is that, like the 3rd year anniversary, if you will, I think?
Yeah, it was February of 21.
That's next week.
Yeah, Winter Storm Iori.
That's next week, the anniversary of that. Valentine's Day.
Yep.
We don't have anything like that coming this week, thank goodness, because that was nuts.
Yeah. It was interesting.
It was good, but not so good. But we'll get into that. We'll tell you some of our harrowing adventures that we had. We nearly starved to death.
Yes. Yes, we'll talk about that soon.
More later, but okay.
But so you also had some other resources that people could kind of reach out for if they were having like issues or suicidal thoughts or things like that. Like they're like, aside from peer support and like employee assistance programs, there's also just national numbers you can just like text "I need help" to, right?
Yes, one in particular is 741-741, and that is a national text hotline.
And you just text help to 741.
You can. I think what they prefer is text home.
Home.
I'm not really sure what that, because I tried to find what that word mean and why they chose that one, but in everything that I saw, I think that you can text them pretty much anything.
Okay.
You can say, help, home, but why they chose home, I looked and I could not figure out why that is. So I'm going to probably make that one of my missions. But literally, 741-741, text them, and they are 24/7, 365. They are trained professionals. I believe there are clinicians. I'm not sure about psychiatrists or psychologists, psychiatrists, but there are trained professionals on the other end of that. And, you can do your cell phone for the text part, but they also have WhatsApp, which you can do on your phone, but you can also do WhatsApp on your computer
machine, yeah.
WhatsApp web, and it is still the same end-to-end encryption that we all have come to know and love with WhatsApp. And you also can find them, the crisistexthotline.com, or you can Google it, and you can go through your browser and chat with them. The good thing about that is once you leave the chat and the WhatsApp, it goes away.
Okay.
All of that information it just goes away. It's not kept anywhere. It's not stored anywhere. Now, your cell phone is a different matter because it's on their end. They may not keep it, but you still have a record of it on your own phone. So that's up to you what you want to do with that. But it is confidential. The same duty to report applies. If you call them up or you text them up, chat them up, whatever, and tell them you're going to go shoot up the mall, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah. But, do get help before you do that, please.
Please. And the good thing about this one, it's a crisis line. It is not specifically suicide. It's not specifically drug and alcohol abuse. It's not specifically, bad relationships. It's any crisis that you may find yourself in. Mm-hmm. They have a resource for you. Mm-hmm. And what I like about that is you don't have to go looking around for a specific number or agency that deals with your problem. You tell them what it is, and they can get the help that you need, or at least point you in the right direction.
Yeah, because, again, the first step is always the hardest.
Yes.
And that was 741-741?
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the crisis text line, but they also have a chat capability and direct browser and WhatsApp. Okay.
Yeah, because how not to take care of yourself is to, I think, ultimately ignore yourself. Because you will tell yourself what you need. Because there's never been a time that I did not get enough sleep that I did not feel tired.
Agreed.
Like, you know when you're tired. You know when you're too buzzed to drive.
Uh-huh.
It's being aware of yourself.
Yeah.
Enough, and sometimes you may need help to get out of wherever you're at.
Yes.
But doing things that are destructive to your own ends, even though in the short term they may feel good or easy,
mm-hmm.
Are not going to redound to your benefit.
Yeah.
And, we as first responders are responsible for being our brother's keepers.
Agreed.
Look after each other.
Wonderfully said. Yes.
Thank you. They, look after each other, make sure that, you're looking after yourself so you can look after other people.
Yeah.
Because when somebody calls 911 and they're having a crisis, they need you to be on your A game.
Absolutely. You are the learned friend. You're keeping watch.
Yeah.
And if you're half asleep, half drunk, not well, unrested, you're not taking care of yourself in general,
mm-hmm.
How much good are you going to be? And here's something else. One of my mentors tells me all the time, think about the person that means the absolute most to you, whether that be a brother, a friend, a sister, cousin, bestie, whatever. That person that means the most to you. Now, they're calling 911. Who do you want to answer the phone? You who does not take the job as serious as you should by taking care of yourself and having your being able to put your best professional foot forward, or do you want the person that's doing the opposite of that,
mm-hmm.
who is ready and able to answer and get them the help that they need?
I'd like the person that's ready and able to answer.
It's just a thought.
Should we put a poll out? I don't know.
I'm just going to throw it out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I think everybody would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't think about it in those terms.
No, we
think
don't.
about it in terms of everyone else. But what if that person that means the most to us is on the other end of the phone, and your colleague is the one who has not taken care of themselves, and now your loved one is in their hands?
Mm-hmm. Plus, how mad are you going to be at that colleague?
You're ready to tear the house down.
Yeah.
And I can say that with full confidence because that's what I would be. I'd be hot about it.
Yes. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you listening to us on the episode of The Don'ts of What to Do to How Not to Take Care of Yourself.
Yep.
Erica, I appreciate your insights into all of the don'ts and what not to do's and how to avoid them.
Well, then, as everybody can probably tell, this is a passion of mine.
Yes.
And if I got out there, I'm so sorry. But sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, no, I get
It's
you.
important.
Yeah. As always, if you have any questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, please feel free to reach out to our Facebook group, Lifeline 911 Podcast, or email us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Until next week, everyone, stay safe. Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911 Podcast. If you have any questions about the topics we discussed today, or if there's something specific you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us your questions at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. Stay safe out there. Until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.